What is up, you Norwegian pygmy rhinoceri? In today's video, we're going to be going over the top 3 gods in each role with their builds as of the 11.4 patch. There's a lot of information and stuff to go over, so I'm just going to try and speedrun it. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with the solo lane. These gods are going to be in no particular order, like 1 through 3. So kind of do whatever you want with that information. Bologna is going to be her build. I went ahead and already put all the builds out, so we can just talk about the build. I don't have to go through and select everything. Equinox is kind of dominating the meta right now. Auto attack warriors are back with a tanky yet powerful build like this, where you have some damage here, you have some damage with your kin size, a ton of attack speed, so lots of procs from your kins and your Axe of Animosity. You get a sustain from Equinox, but then you can go the Axe of Animosity, which actually makes you tanky. You don't really want to go Death Embrace or Death Toll because it'll make you too squishy. You'll have 2 items or even 3 items that don't give you any defense, so that's going to be a problem. You kind of mask or fix that problem by going Axe of Animosity. In every single one of these builds, the situational items are going to be down here, plus the second relic. You go TP on every solo laner. And then the other gods, like mid and stuff, we'll talk about that. We're going to have beads most of the time. But yeah, so situation items will be down here. These 6 items are what you're going to want to go every single game. And second relic. And yeah, that's Bologna. Very strong right now. Osiris, another auto attack solo laner, is Osiris. And he's another solo laner you should be playing. Basically the exact same build. You could also throw a prophetic in this build instead of Shogun's, because I don't think Osiris relies on as much as attack speed, because he doesn't get tankier from his attack speed like kind of Bologna does with her block stacks on her 1, but still very strong, top of the meta, no bad matchups, good in lane, gets you pressure, gets you Bull Demon King, and of course can slam people late game and does enough damage and is tanky enough to survive dives. So very, very strong. The other solo laner you should be playing is Wukong. Good into the auto attack warriors, very strong late game. Very hard to gank, and this build is very good at killing people. It does a ton of damage. I think Soul Eater is super strong right now. 50 power when that thing is upgraded. You combine that with Redstone attack speed and proc items, plus all of your proc items here. Arc Druids, Pridwin, Glad Shield procs, Binding Pen. This character is just super tanky and powerful, very slippery in team fights. Definitely would recommend. You can slam him every single game, and as long as you're comfortable on him, which you should be, he's fucking easy, you should be fine, and you should do well in most games. So that would be the 3 solo laners that I recommend right now with their builds. And of course, you go blue Pridwin on Wukong because it's just a little bit better on him, because you're not always going to be proccing the glorious Pridwin if you go that route. A little mana hungry with this build, so that's why you go the Arc Druid's 3rd item. Sometimes if you're worried about their magical damage, you can throw a Genji's in that Arc Druid spot, but I think you're going to do fine here, and you'll be threatening enough with this build. You could also sometimes get away with not going teleport on Wukong, because you can bird to lane, but teleport's pretty much always valuable, even in the lanes where you can get back fast, because you can just teleport away and just be everywhere all at once, like the movie. But if you do opt to skip the teleport, you usually go Blink Beads or maybe Blink Thorns in some rare scenarios. But yeah, it's Wukong. So Wukong, Bologna, Osiris are your 3 solo laners you should be playing. In the jungle, one character that got mega buff this patch that I think you should be playing is Lancelot. He is very strong right now. He's dominating the ranked meta, and for good reason. He was already pretty decent, and they buffed him quite a bit. The build is good for him right now. The thing you're going to notice about the jungle build is it's pretty much been stale and the same for like 3 years now. There are some little variances that you can opt for if you prefer them. Like down here, I have the situational items like Soul Eater. Of course, if they have healing, you can maybe go Brawlers. But for the most part, the builds are pretty set in stone, and they have been for a while. So you just get that full cooldown right off the bat. As long as you have a blue Tiki, you'll be at 40% CDR here, but you'll be 40% late game with Boombasphere. So full CD, so you can just run around and gank people, ult as often as possible. Killing people is good. Could you imagine that? In game, of course, in game, killing people as a jungler is good. So you get that. You also get 40% pen with this. You actually overcap pen once you get your Boomba's Spear, but you don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. You can opt for a Boomba's Hammer if you prefer that, but I think Boomba's Spear is just better in general. Blood Forge Shields for late game, so you can survive as you dive. And yeah, just everything you want in this build. Very, very strong. I highly recommend playing Lance right now. And another jungler I'd recommend you play is Thanatos. His character is such a pub stomper. He's crazy and ranked all the way up to Grandmasters. He just snowballs way too hard. And he's the one character in the game that I still think you can build Bobble on, and it feels really good on him. Just because you get cooldown resets from your passive, so you combine that with Bobble, full CDR, 50%, you're just constant death size. And if you miss your death size a lot, get more of them. So it can mask that problem. So yeah, basically the same thing. Remember, you get flat pen from Thanatos too, so you actually don't really want to build a lot of flat pen on this character, so you get some percent pen from your Hydras, from your Serrated, from your Boomba's Spirit. That'll put you at the cap. And of course, some lifesteal between Serrated and Bloodforged, your shield, so when you dive in, get those executes, you get a shield to chase the next people. The movement speed as well. It's just a huge snowball fight build, and that's what Thanatos should be doing. Basically, always start blink on your junglers. Don't go beads. You want to be able to make plays, and even if you're against like CC, it still ends up being worth it because you're able to blink into gank people. You're able to gank the people that are going to be threatening to you, and you can put them behind with that blink. So it just kind of pays itself off. And of course, go bead second, so you can actually get abilities off late game. You're not going to be full CDR until you get this Boom Spear online. So what you can do is actually go tier 2 Bobble and then wait and finish your Boom Spear because that gives you 10% CDR, and then you can get the Bobble and you'll be at 50%. But of course, some situational items, if you don't want the Bobble, go Titan's Bane because that proc on your Death Scythe, the passive proc from Titan's Bane on Death Scythe, makes it hit so hard. So definitely something to consider. And if you need anti, even though you don't really care about the pen from Brawlers because of your 2, even though they did nerf it, but still, you know, if they have healing, you're going to have to worry about it. Build Brawlers. And the other character I would recommend is actually Erlang, who is not an assassin, but he basically is. The reason I recommend him is because auto attackers are kind of taking over with Equinox, and the build will show you that. So you slam an Equinox with the mannequins. It allows you to have a lot of pressure on Bull Demon King, which is really important right now. That's a very good snowball objective. It allows you to clear all the wards on the map, which helps you get ganked. So it's just crazy for snowball and kill potential. So very good character at doing that. You can build a little bit tanky. You're going to be doing plenty damage with just these 3 items. You can go tank items as your last 2. You can go Mid-Guardian. You can slam a Toxic Plate. Even if you haven't Venom Executioner, Toxic Plate is fine. Or you can skip the Executioner and go with Toxic Plate instead. Just because that flat pen is really good for your Mannequin's base damage because it also applies to magical damage and stuff. So yeah, and you always go Blink ult in team fights. You could even, if you really want, go Equinox Kin Size and just go a full tank build with Mannequins, and you'll still do plenty of damage and be tanky enough to blink ult in fights and kind of initiate even as a jungler. So definitely a recommended character right now. And obviously Mannequin's Mace is very good at burning Fire Giant and burning Titan. That's kind of like the best things it does. So something to consider when you build this item. Try and, you know, pressure those objectives. And maybe sometimes when you don't think you could end, you actually can because you have a Mannequin's Mace. So that is the jungle. Erlang, Thanatos, Lancelot are the characters I recommend you play. Of course, there's a lot of others. Thor's really good. Hunbat's in certain situations. Susano, of course. But those are the 3 that I'd recommend that maybe you didn't know about or weren't thinking of. Okay, now for the mid lane. I will start with the Hunter that's taking over the mid lane that is very, very strong right now. Neith. Super strong. Hunters in general are good right now in mid because of the build path. You can get full CDR with your first 3 items. You also get 20% pen here. You get a lot of flat pen between your Transcendence and your Jotuns, and you just have infinite mana, so you can just run around and farm. A lot of mages, they struggle to clear the mid camps. Most hunters can just walk over and one-shot them, especially when you have Golden Shard, which I didn't include shards in this, but you know, for the most part, either go Golden Shard or Horn Shard. On basically everybody. If you're auto attacker, go Golden Shard. If you're not auto attacker, go Horn Shard. So yeah, so then you get that full CDR. Then you get max pen once you get the Titan's Bane 4th item. You're going to be ulting around, and your ult does like 500 damage at this point with these 4 items, which is crazy for a unmissable ult. Then you get the Brooch, which is going to make it do even more damage, and the Heartseeker is going to make it do even more damage. Late game, when you ult people, you're hitting them for like 1,000, which is just like almost an instant win to a team fight as long as you hit the target you're going for, as long as they don't block it. Super good at farming, good sustain, super safe, can affect side lanes with her ultimate. You know, mid lane in general right now, you kind of just want to farm and get super big and not rotate that often. So Neith can do that while also affecting the side lanes with her ultimate. So just tons of pressure. Very, very good. Highly recommend playing this character. That is her build, of course. And then the 2 mages I'd recommend, we'll start out with Thoth, because he's still very, very strong. This is the build I go him. I think he's a good Mirrodin character. If you don't need to go Divine, most games you will need to go Divine on mages. It's already a decent item. Good flat pen, good for damage. Helps clear certain camps like mid camps because of the proc effect. But sometimes you don't need to go Divine. So if you're not going to go Divine here, go the Karens here and just push the items back. So go Spear of Deso, Karens, Staff of Mirrodin, Reaver, Pendulum Mages, and then the last item like a Soul Gem or a situational item, maybe like a Rod to Hidi even. And then of course go Beads, go 2 Potions. Do not go Alternate Timeline, please. I saw some other people recommending that. I don't think that item is good anymore. Do not go it. Pendulum Mages, you need that power to be threatening to do damage right now. And also go Gem of Focus if you're going to go Gem, because that also increases all of your proc items. But I recommend going Sands of Time for the most part. Unless you're playing a proc character like Tiamat or Merlin, then you can go Conduit and you can go that full build where you go Tablet, Reaver, Breastplate of Valor, Book of Thoth. Then that's the situation you should go Conduit. But otherwise, you should go Sands of Time. And if you're going Sands of Time, you should be going Pendulum of Ages. Do not go Alternate Timeline. That's Thoth. And the other character I'd recommend is actually Zeus. A little bit unsafe, but as long as you have any like single brain cell going on in your brain, you can do well on this character right now. He does way too much damage. This build is absolutely busted on him. As you're going to see, we're going to have Vampiric, really good sustain, and the upgrade is really good for the Typhons that we're going to be going later on, because this will put us at our max percent pen with these 3 items, and you combine that with Sacrificial Shroud, you get some extra lifesteal and extra power. This character does way too much damage. So if you don't need Divine, then you can go a Deso here into a Soul Gem into a Mirrodin. But a lot of times you will need Divine, so just go, especially with tanks diving, a lot of times they have sustain. Equinox as well is very prevalent right now, so like I said, Divine's going to be built quite often, and you should be building it. So yeah, you go Divine, Deso, best item in the game, honestly, such a broken item. It's good in every mage build. Into that Mirrodin, Zeus is a very good user of Mirrodin. Into a Rajuhidi. Rajuhidi is really good on Zeus because a lot of times, once you get those first few abilities off on them, you have your charges on them, and they're below 50%, so your Rajuhidi is going to basically always be proccing on them, or 60%, whatever it is. I forget what it is nowadays. But yeah, you go that Sacrificial Shroud for the extra proc damage, or the extra overall damage, and then slam that Typhon's Fang for that wombo combo with the Sacrificial Shroud. This build is absolutely busted. Of course, go Beads Aegis, so you can be survivable. You know, no CC immunity and Zeus kit, so you definitely want to be using those beads wisely. Just position well, throw out your abilities, click your ult, cast all of your other abilities, and come late game, once you get Sacrificial and Typhons online, like each ability is hitting for like 1,000 plus. It's insane how much damage this character does. And even his ult, like the first tick of it will hit for like 1,000, which is ridiculous. Even on the tanks, you one-shot him. So definitely recommend Zeus in the mid lane. Just a little bit unsafe, you know, a little bit on the less safe side compared to other characters, but I think it's 100% worth it. So that's Zeus. Those are our 3 mid laners, so Zeus, Thoth, and Neith. Now for our supports. Bacchus, still very strong. I highly recommend playing this character. Bit more aggressive, so I like the War Flag route with a Prophetic into a Mystical mount. Of course, go Horrific on most supports right now, and definitely a character like Bacchus where you're going to be in their face a lot of the time. Some characters that play more back like Khepri, Geb, Ganesha, you don't have to build Horrific on just because you're not always right next to them. So, you know, maybe you can go something else, but for the most part, Horrific there. Super aggressive character, so lots of Prophetic stacks you're going to be getting, so go that. Mystical, I still really like on him, especially with the lead, but even from even, it's fine. To a Binding for that flat pen, so you can be threatening on your own, but also give your team prot shred. Into a Pridwin, you'll just solo carries on your own, even from support, even a couple levels down, it does not matter. I mean, from the start of the game, you're going to be soloing them, so you kind of already aren't going to be levels behind because you're going to be like running at them and making it really hard for them to play the game. I think this character is really strong. Into a Spartan Flag, you can go Warbender if you like, but it's really up to you. Into a Spirit Robe with all these items, you're going to be at like 300 Fizz prots, 240 magical prot, tons of mitigation, a crap ton of damage. Most of the time it's going to be Horrific and Sprint, so you can counter their Horrific, but also you can consider going Thorns, because like I said, you're just going to be soloing their backline. If you prefer to go with Thebes, you can switch that out for the Prophetic if you'd like, and Midgardian in some games. I always have Midgardian down here in the situational, because there's a lot of auto-attackers right now, so it's probably the best anti-auto attack item in the game, so definitely something to consider in your builds, but for the most part you can't really go wrong with all of this. So that's Bacchus. Sobek is our other support, one of the, I guess 2 of the 3. Pretty similar to Bacchus, pretty aggressive as well. I do like the War Flag on him into that Prophetic with the Horrific, but I think you can go more of like a aggressive yet supportive playstyle, unlike Bacchus where I think you should just be soloing them. I think Sobek can kind of be aggressive, maybe solo some people here and there, put people out of position, but that also help his team out and peel. So that's why I like to go the Aura with it, Midgardian, so that when you're ulting and chasing, that you pluck them. If they beads and start hitting you, you're going to be tanky to them. You can go into your ult and they won't just shred you down. Binding, because you have so much CC, you're going to be proccing that. I like War Banner for the sieges, just playing around your teammates a little bit more. That Aura is a little bit better for that, I think, but of course Spartan Flag is fine. And then Shogun as well. You pluck people into your ADC, into your auto attack junglers, into your auto attack soul laners. Unless of course your soul laner has Shoguns, but it's still fine to go because a lot of times you're not going to be right next to each other and you're going to be near your ADC and they won't be. So Sprint Horrific is fine, so you can sprint after you pluck in Horrific their backline. You can sprint away or sprint your team from their Horrific, but also consider going Blink Plucks, especially if they have people that you can instantly put out of position. Relic Dagger, of course, so you can get more Horrifics and stuff off. Relic Dagger is nice, especially with the Glyph. Blue Pridwin to be a little bit more tankier, just some situational items. And if you get ahead on Sobek, even though I think you probably should go Mystical in most games as Bacchus, I think you should probably only go Mystical if you're ahead on Sobek and just want to be a complete nuisance and kind of carry the game from support. So yeah, situational items down there. And our last support I recommend playing is Ganesha. Can't really go wrong with this character. So annoying. Counters so many characters in the game. He's pretty much what I said earlier. He's not really this horrific in-your-face playstyle. He's more of like a supportive, you know, peel, initiate with your ult, try and get a good ult off, but you're not going to be right there in front of everybody's faces. Your objective is to peel and make it really hard for the soul laners and the junglers to kill your backline. and boy does he do it. So that's why you go to Sentinels, you go to a Thebes, Soft for just some auras. You go into that Pruin just for the CDR, so you can get more abilities off, your more silences, more ults. Relic Dagger for the same reason, get more sprints off, more abilities, more horrifics. If you go that route, or if you go Shell, it'll be very hard for them to dive. Sentinels Embrace for another aura, and then Heart Ward for another aura. Just so many auras. So hard to dive into an aura Ganesh, as most characters in the game. Some exceptions are like Cthulhu, Vamana, characters that don't really care about CC because they can just go into their ult and stomp on them. So some counters to Ganesh, but basically everybody else that you're going to be playing against, it's just so annoying for us as solo laners or as junglers. Some situational items, binding, and of course the same thing with Guardian that I've been saying. Does proc binding a lot, and when you're peeling and you're silencing and you're knocking up solo laners, that proc tread can be a little bit helpful for taking them down. But yeah, more of a peel style support, so we get a little bit of aggressive, something in between, and then a more peel style support. So those are your three gods: Ganesha, Sobek, and what was the first one? Bacchus, of course, the drunk guy. So yeah, and then the last and the probably most boring role is Hunter. Hunter's kind of weird right now. There's not really clear-cut like OP characters. I think you can play a lot of different stuff, and I think a lot of it comes down to comfortability and team comps. But three characters that I think you can't really go wrong with right now are, number one, Hachiman. I like the crit build on him. I think the kin size shred build is basically better in every other scenario besides on Hachi because of his the damage increase and the range increase. It's basically just like an artillery strike, and it can instantly win you a team fight if you hit just like one of them on an enemy ADC or an enemy mid-mage. So it's very, very strong on him. This would be the crit build. You can also go Ornate here instead. If you're going a crit build, I think that's the only time you should go Ornate. Otherwise, I think you should always build Leather Cow and maybe Destal, because Des Temper is also pretty strong for crit builds because of the multiplicative number that applies when you get stacks off of it. So you can definitely go that, but I don't know, I just think Leather Cow's way too strong. I've played a lot of ADC lately, and the pressure it provides you is just way too good. It gives you too many stats early game, and of course, Leader's Cow is pretty good, especially double lifesteal, and with crit, you can heal a lot when people are diving you. But yeah, so definitely if you're going crit, you can consider going Ornate or whatever, Gilded, whatever it's called, or the Des Toll, so you can go Des Temper. But that's just with crit. I think otherwise you probably should never go those items. You can. There's, like I said, it's a little bit more boring because it's also kind of fun that there's some variety, of course, but not as much for just like giving you guys, because there's just so many different things you can do, I think, in the role right now. I recommend playing Apollo. I think this character is really strong. He gives you so much pressure in lane. He scales really well, and I just go this build every single game. I go Dominance instead of Xe first on him just because of the mana sustain for his ult and spamming your abilities. He's a little bit more mana hungry. So, but most of the time you do go Xe first before Dominance. But you just go straight into this Pen Shred build, Leader's Cow late game, into an Oboe. You can go Silver Branch here, but you're not going to be overcapped that much unless you have your passive. And I just think Oboe, honestly, I think is one of the best items in the game and really underrated by a lot of people. Sometimes you can go Titan's Bane. These are the situational items. Like I said, Silver Branch if you want. And of course, Beads Aegis. But yeah, I play this. Whenever I play ADC, I win every single game. If I play Apollo, it's like he's just that strong, in my opinion, if you know how to play him, which you should. He's really not that difficult of a character. Just way too much pressure. Especially when you play characters like Bacchus, Sobek. People are going to be setting you up in lane. When you get your passive, you can just slam them with your autos and you'll win lane a lot of the time. Honor is number 3, just a standard character. I don't even think he's that strong anymore, but I just don't think you can really go wrong with picking this character. And, you know, he's very survivable, good in lane. The only weakness is late game. He doesn't have a steroid, and he's a little bit easier to dive, in my opinion, just because of like some slow animations and such. But yeah, still a strong character. Definitely recommend. Like I said, hunters in general kind of get away with whatever you want as long as you're comfortable. Same build as Apollo, basically. No attack speed, steroid. So I think you basically should always go this, because you notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are giving you attack speed. So you're basically at cap with this, especially with the Shoguns. You will be, and you have a lot of penetration, and you also have it on your passive, so you're gonna be slamming with that. You can go a crit build on her if you like. I personally don't think you should. I don't know. I just think the Kin's build is so much better, especially as a tank player. Like the people that are going to be in front of you, making your day miserable and making you not be able to do your job, are always tanks. It's always these auto attack soul laners, or even like the supports hitting you as well, like the tanky Bacchuses. Going crit into that is just silly, in my opinion, especially when they get mid-guardian mail. Like, you're just not going to be as threatening as you should be, and you're not going to be able to do your job. So I think the concise build is basically always better. Some exceptions are if they have like a squishy soul laner for some reason, or maybe like the meta build is a little bit on the squishier side in solo, because of people going kin size, and sometimes they're going Xe with their Equinoxes and stuff, or if they're going Destol plus all that, then crit can be good in those scenarios. But hey, for the most part, this build is still better, and you'll just kill everybody on the map. And come late game, even with this build, you still 4 or 5 shot carries anyway. That's the funny part of it. Like, you go from, if you go crit, you'll kill the enemy carries in 3 autos, but if you go the kin size build, you'll kill them in 4 or 5. But you're also more threatening to tanks, and you're also have a higher attack speed usually. So yeah, I don't know. The one thing I will not recommend, and I think you should never do in ADC, is go mannequins unless you're playing Heim. He's the one exception. But do not be going mannequins on anybody else. I'm tired of seeing that in my ranked games. It's not good. It's not good. Stop doing it. Except for Heim. All right. That's it, guys. Those are my top 3 gods in each role with their builds. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know what you've been playing. If you have any suggestions for people, think maybe some underrated characters with a nice build, throw it down in the comments. And I'll give you guys my 2 cents. But yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned anything or two. And again, I'm pretty sure I'm in Italy right now. I've been recording some videos to upload while I'm gone. So I hope you guys are staying safe, and I hope you miss me. Yeah, so stay safe and healthy as always, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace!